On the next episode of the Janus Oasis, I'm here to tell you a little story. I'm Nola Simon, and I am the podcast host of the Janus Oasis. And way back, once upon a time, I worked for the American division of a global conglomerate. And it was like I'd moved to Boston for 16 years. I realized that nobody in Canada actually understood what my skills were. And it was really important for me to raise my profile in Canada so I could transition jobs. So I did a couple of different things. One was start writing on LinkedIn. I started using Yammer, which is like Facebook for internal corporate. And then I also noticed these videos that were actually going around and being talked about at the water cooler, the proverbial water cooler that everybody loves. But these videos were really cool, and they created community and they created engagement. And there was one in particular that came out, and it was all set to Wake Me Up Before You Go and George Michael. And if you know me at all, you know that George Michael is like my be all and end all. And any team that could actually get George Michael corporate message into the same video and make that have fun and have people adore that, I wanted to be part of that team. So I sent an email. And I managed to get myself into 2 little change management videos, which helped me improve my video skills and propelled me on this path that I've been to actually improve my personal brand. So today I have the honor of introducing Kendra Forster. If you read my LinkedIn or Instagram or at all, you may recognize her as the photographer who did my headshots, but she is also a videographer. And Kerry Anne Rothe is the owner of Doc 45. And she is a creative storyteller, so she's a lady after my own heart. So welcome. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
So exciting.
We're in sync.
We are in sync, exactly. And that's actually part of why I've always enjoyed working with you, is you just have this ability to read people. So Kendra in particular, I'm going to address this to you. One of the reasons that I had chosen you as my photographer is I started noticing that all of the executives that I was paying attention to had really cool headshots. And you could track through the company who had used that photographer. And so when I did some digging, I found out it was you. So when you're taking headshots and working with people, and it doesn't have to be executives in particular, what do you look for? How do you start that process when you're meeting with people?
The first thing I want to do is make sure that people feel comfortable and enjoy the experience. Everyone is the same to me. Like, I don't really care about titles. I don't care about hierarchy in the company. I want to know who you are as a person. And that's what speaks to me. So when I'm behind my camera and I see you through my lens, I want to make sure that I'm representing my client in the most authentic way. So we have fun to take them to interesting and different locations that are going to spark really nice portraits that tell a story. Because let's face it, first impressions are key, and people judge immediately when they see a photo. So I want to make sure that person comes across as their true, authentic self, warm, friendly, and that means smiling with your teeth and your eyes.
Yes, she had me doing pirouettes, and that was quite fun.
This is true. This is true. We need to take people out of their comfort zone. A lot of people think, oh, I just want to stand here and I don't want to smile. And okay, I'll take a few of those different shots, but hey, let's try something different. Let's get you out of your element. Let's move around. Let's laugh. Let's have fun. Let's joke. And it's always in those in-between moments where I find the magic. And at the end of the day, those are the portraits that actually they pick. And it makes me feel as an artist that I've done my job.
Yeah, exactly. And you're not kidding when you say people judge in seconds. And there's actually websites where you can actually upload photos to get feedback immediately from other people to comment on how much they like, trust, and would want to work with you. So
absolutely.
It's a whole judgment process, but the key thing, honestly, is to be comfortable. So I remember when I first came to you, I'm like, oh, I want to come across as friendly. I want to come across as knowledgeable. I want to come across as approachable. And I ended up in a photo with a bee, and it was fun, but it was weird. It was unlike any photo I had taken before. But that photo, I think it was the photo right beforehand. That's the photo that was the whole session.
That's right. Yeah.
So it's really cool the way that you get results without actually, posing and being stiff, and just like every other headshot experience that I've had before.
I'm glad to hear that.
You.
Yeah, let's do something different.
Yeah, exactly. And that really takes us into what I really liked about the award-winning videos that you guys put together. That was really cool because there were different locations. There were silly little props that you wouldn't expect. There was day glow. So what do you look for when you're creating like a script like that, Kerry Anne? How do you start with that?
So the way to start, from my point of view, is figure out what it is you need to say, and then find a creative way to tell that story. So just like our friend Kendra, when she does headshots that really reflect a personal brand, it's about putting someone in a place that is unexpected, potentially in a position that's unexpected. And then from there, yeah, I mentioned some fun props, and then figure out what you can take to do it a little bit further. So it's always that unexpected. So you hear me talk a lot about surprise and delight. I'm not the first, I won't be the last to talk about those words. But that is really the key when you're doing video, is what can you do to surprise your audience so that, yeah, you're not doing the corporate face at the corporate table. But I think back to some of the stuff we did, and one of them, we shot in like a city park.
That's
And
right.
that included bringing lawn chairs. So we put our executives in lawn chairs. I think we surrounded them with, what was it? It was a inflatable flamingo, like oversized, like beyond life-size flamingo. Some of the surprise and delight we got in the bloopers was when the attack swan that was floating by in the stream in the park decided to come on up and attack the flamingo. That was fun. I remember running around with our props and our chairs pretty quickly, because swans are really friggin' scary, is what I also would like to impart with you. This is true. So, but getting back to your question, I think at the end of the day, it's finding a place, whether it's the place you shoot, it's how you shoot, it's surprising the people that you're working with too, in a good way, so that they get a little smile before you ever even turn on the camera. Oh, you want me to sit by the bank of the river and we're going to have a inflatable flamingo beside me and we're going to talk about this. You get the actual human being, not just the potential corporate automaton. Right? Sorry, I guess I shouldn't say corporate automaton, but you guys get what I'm
that's
saying.
Okay. We all know the corporate automaton.
Right? I don't care about the corporate automaton. There's lots of people that can do really bad corporate videos for you. I'd be happy to give you a list if you would like.
No, thank you. I chose you in particular.
I'm not saying people are lacking in creativity. I think everyone has sparks of creativity. I think the trick is to allow yourself to be creative in the moments that potentially traditionally haven't been that creative. So resist the temptation of the boardroom table. Resist, people, resist.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And to add on that, Kerry Anne, ditch the teleprompter.
Right?
Ditch it entirely, throw it out the window. We don't want to hear it. We don't want to see your eyes scrolling across the screen, because as soon as a leader does that, you just lose credibility.
That's right. And I'd say absolutely throw out the teleprompter. I'd also say throw out the script. Mm-hmm. So I can't tell you the number of times that I've had executives, they get a bit squirrely, right? If you just say, hey, we're not going to have a script for this, we're just going to talk. Well, okay, no, let's not do that. So the approach to the approach is important too, in that every time that we connected, when we wanted to do a video with an executive, it always started with a conversation, a one-on-one conversation with that executive, with that person. I'm going to start calling them a person. They just happen to have an executive role. And it's a first name basis. It is a casual conversation, making them feel comfortable, making them feel safe and secure, because I want the person to show up, not the executive. I'm going to give you a heads up on the kinds of questions we're going to ask. And I'd like you to think about the answers to those questions. You can write them out if you want, but those notes aren't coming anywhere near you when we're filming, because I want to know what you actually think and feel about the questions. And that there's real power in that, because suddenly it might take a couple of takes, right, Kendra, where we have to remind them, no, let's just talk. And suddenly you peel the executive off the person. Gosh, that sounds terrible.
Peeling back layers.
Yeah, I want to talk to the person, right? I want the person on camera. I want the person to express their opinion and their perspective in a way that helps people understand who they are and why they think what they think, versus just regurgitating some corporate bullet points. I don't need to make a video about that. I'm sure there's a web page for that somewhere internally.
the disgust in which you say that.
I feel
page somewhere.
It's so wasteful. I challenge communicators to do better, to not just repeat the same thing.
Do you actually have people who push back when you talk to them and tell them your approach and refuse to work in your method? Or
I have never had anyone say no.
cool, you have 100% success rate.
100%. I'm batting 1,000.
That's cool.
And I think that's based though on a level of trust, right? You have to build trust with the person you're speaking with before you can expect them to trust you. And again, coming to it from a point of being really clear about what we're seeking to achieve, how we're seeking to achieve it, what we're hoping to get from it, the opportunity that they have in front of them to build their own personal brand too, and to be more accessible, to be more approachable potentially.
Yeah, exactly. And Kendra, you mentioned that to me before too, that you actually look when you're actually videoing somebody or you're taking photos of them, you're looking for the smile behind the eyes. What do you call it? The smiles?
The smiles, yes, absolutely. We have to have life in those eyes, right? Because real smiles, I'm looking for that genuine vibe, because that's going to attract your audience. It's going to tell the story. It's going to make people trust you. Kerry Anne said, it's going to make people feel comfortable and want to get to know you.
Yeah. And that's actually interesting after the fact. Do leaders actually find that people are approaching them more often? Yes?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. It changes, right? So once you see someone who has opened up as a human being, you may have only ever seen the corporate person at the boardroom table video. And so that's the only thing you know about that person. That's the only facet of who they are that you can see. But gosh, it opens things up nicely when you get the opportunity to see somebody being interviewed in a park being chased by a swan. Yeah, that changes your perspective. There were no swans injured in the making of that video.
They're all searching for the key to communication and the key to engagement. And the key is really just be yourself and be creative.
Be creative, be yourself, be vulnerable, build trust, show up as the human being you are, not your title.
Exactly.
You know, that, like, your audience, if we're talking about corporate videos, your audience is.
I'm just reminiscing about some of the different locations that we actually filmed some of these interesting videos, like a tube park, a furniture store, skating rink, a Ferris wheel. Just getting out of the corporate boardroom, like you said, and putting people and leaders in different locations that bring out a completely different vibe. Right. And people want to actually watch. You're like, whoa, what's going on here?
There's always a way to tie in, though. Like, those places weren't entirely random either. I don't want to leave people saying, oh, they could rent a Ferris wheel, so they went on a Ferris wheel. No, we chose a Ferris wheel because it worked with the topic that we were speaking about. I think in that case, it was finance. It was talking about the ups and downs in finance and how teams can help reduce costs, how the organization is moving through the ebbs and flows of financial changes. And we drew the line to the metaphor in the words and obviously in the pictures, putting them on a Ferris. Hey, why are we on a Ferris wheel today? Glad you asked. Here, let me tell you why. And then we brought that metaphor, we pulled that thread all the way through.
So there's not necessarily a script, but there's a theme.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Again, like, that to me is born of the creativity. So again, start with what story you're looking to tell. Are you looking to tell a story about finance and reducing costs and moving with ebbs and flows and change of the economy? Okay, what might visually help tell that story? And that's how we ended up on a Ferris wheel.
And on the Ferris wheel, we would get hours of footage. It just came down to the magic of editing to reduce that to a 3 to 5 minute video, telling the story and taking that conversation and unscripted questions and making it whole.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I just thinking back to that particular shoot, and I guess on every one of the shoots really, because, and I think I mentioned this before, but the idea that you're putting someone in a new environment, in a different environment, in a delightful environment. I'll go ahead and call it a delightful environment.
Oh my goodness.
Right?
And just thinking of all the laughter that we've had And the blooper reels. Oh my goodness. That's the best part of editing for me is honestly the blooper reels. I will just sit editing and just giggle to myself for so long. Just again, seeing these leaders as humans or employees as humans, sharing, I can't say sharing your humanity, just laughing, poking fun at themselves, having a great time. That is what speaks to me. That's what makes my job feel like I've done my job when I see the blooper reels. and we would always get the most comments on the blooper reels. Right. Sometimes people would actually maybe fast forward to the blooper reels.
I think so.
Yeah, I remember watching the blooper reels first.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally did.
That's a really good point, though, because the blooper reels, you want to talk about building trust. You want to talk about helping someone develop a personal brand that makes them more approachable, whether it's a leader or an employee. That's a great way to do it, is to be able to see them at their most human when they, we all mess up all the time.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, don't ask me to turn left. Remember that?
Right. Yeah. Dear
That's
audience,
true.
Nola cannot turn left. Just
I
be
cannot
aware.
turn left for the life of me because I'm deaf in my left ear and I'm very right centric. And I learned that by shooting video.
That's right.
Kerry Anne would be like, I need you to turn left. She's like, no, your other left. Your other left. Your other left. Okay, you're just going to turn right.
Yeah, I think we actually changed the scene because you could not turn left.
I could not.
Yeah,
we
that's
changed
right.
the setup just for you, Nola.
Yeah,
that's right.
And
that's right.
I think that made it to the blooper reel. I can't remember for sure, but
that's a recommendation I'd make for anybody who's listening and is toying with this idea of being a little bit more creative in how they approach video and how they approach storytelling, is include the blooper reel. Don't embarrass anybody. You need to build trust all the way around, and you never want to embarrass someone. And at the same time, there's gold in them their blooper hills, let me tell you. Because that's where people see the moments, right? Those kind of magical moments where it's, oh, I got that one wrong. Oh, darn it, she can't turn left. Now what? So there's again, that's one other thing.
It's infectious. Yeah,
it is.
When you hear people laughing at themselves, which we all should do more often, it just makes you laugh. It makes you smile. It makes you human.
Yeah.
No, that's good. And editing is really what makes the magic come alive. Kendra, that's your favorite part, you've told me.
It is. Editing is by far my favorite part, whether I'm editing photos, whether I'm editing videos. The magic just comes alive for me because I'm able to create the story that I, again, see in those people and just bring it to life. And I'm in my own little zone when I'm in my editing bubble, so to speak.
I can't tell you the number of times we would shoot so much video, and I knew we had covered all the points we wanted to cover. I knew we had some good moments, and I knew we had 2 hours of footage, whether it was B-roll plus the stuff we were really to get. And I just remember looking at Kendra and saying, over to you. I don't know how the heck you're going to do what you're going to do, but she is magical at it. Absolutely magical.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I found that as well too. But I think that this is fascinating because really, as we go into a world where it's more hybrid remote and people aren't seeing each other, like you need to build on those connections and you need to tell the stories in different ways that are going to be relevant and relatable. And I think there's just going to be more and more transparency in all organizations. If they're going to survive, they're going to need to commit to this kind of stuff. And that's where I wanted to bring you in to talk about this, because I do think that it's a really important thing for the future of work. Were there any last gems that you wanted to leave us with? Any more insights? If anybody could props.
Always work with props.
Yeah, always have a clapper. Make sure that people feel like they are on a true movie set. We had production assistants. We brought in co-ops when we could. We made people feel like, wow, like how did I get to be a part of this production? Make people feel special. It's all about the experience.
Yeah. Yes, that's actually part of the story I left out. My daughter actually, because I was working remote, I did not have a traditional grade 9 day office to bring her to when she was in grade 9. And so one of the video shoots ended up being on grade 9 day. And I was actually able to bring my daughter in and she got to operate the clapper and she got to see a whole video production. And when she went back to school, everybody else had been in accounting meetings and compliance meetings. I did bring her to a compliance meeting. She was bored, but she had the best, coolest experience of everybody else in her entire grade. And that was a challenge because I was remote and I didn't have authorization to really access offices like that. I had to go to the line. She's got the highest mark in photography in her whole entire grade right now.
Hey,
Amazing.
And she attributes that to that experience. So I wanted to, again, say personally thank you.
That's cool.
Because not only was it a fun experience for me to do, but you made my kids' year. And it still has an impact. So.
That makes my heart smile.
Yeah, she was a good production assistant. We had a bunch of, that was grade 9 day. There were a bunch of grade 9s wandering
Yeah, I
around.
brought my nephew as well that day. And
we got lots of help. We need a grade 9 day every time we film.
That's right.
And maybe next time you'll give me lines. I didn't have lines. You guys did voiceover.
That's right.
One day.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you making time. We'll make sure that all of your contact information is available in the show notes. So if you want to personally connect with Kendra or Kerry Anne about their services for corporate storytelling or photography, you're more than welcome to contact them that way. And thanks again. Nice to see you.
Thank you so much, Nola. Thanks for having us on.
It's
All
fun.
right, perfect.